Mr. Oyegu was a 50-year-old Nigerian man. He was a businessman and had his own business outfit in one of the busiest parts of town. He was in the beer business. He takes some at times, and once in a while takes one too many. Once he does that, he gets easily irritated and could easily fall out with anyone nearby, especially the wife. But I must give him credit for knowing how to check himself even under some influence. Mrs Oyegu was a 45-year-old woman. She had a personal business selling food in one of the busiest markets around town. She comes home often late and tired, having to stand and cook food most of the day. She therefore comes home feeling very tired, and one could understand why she had to be tired when she comes home. Most often, she goes straight to bed even without taking her bath after spending all that time cooking. They have 4 children, all of whom were in different universities around the country. They therefore need to work very hard to ensure that they sustain these children at school. Looking at them from a distance, one would not be wrong to conclude that they have a peaceful home. But inside, the home simmers like a boiling lava inside the earth's crust. Why is the lava boiling inside? You may want to ask. Mrs. Oyegu felt she has had all the children that they need. She therefore sees no reason to waste time looking good anymore. She eventually hardly takes care of herself because she sees no reason for doing so, considering that she has had all the children she wants to have. She hardly looks clean in her faded wrapper, which she hardly washes anymore. She had become very flabby and unkempt. Because of her I don't care attitude to life, she now looks much more aged than her real age. All attempts by Mr. Oyegu to get her to shape up fell on deaf ears. Like she will always tell those who care to listen, "Wetin I want again. Not be my children don't grow up finish so. Not be my children then dey university so. Wetin again are they look for?" But Mr. Oyegu thinks otherwise. He met her a very lovely and clean woman, and does not agree that life should be over by now. While he agrees that they have advanced in age, he also thinks that one cannot just surrender to life. You just need to package yourself and remain presentable as long as you have good health. Mr. Oyegu is the very man no dey old type of man. Such men always keep themselves current. They never think life has to come to an end just because they no longer need kids. They believe that men have certain things that attracted them to a woman in the first instance. That women have a responsibility to preserve those traits as much as possible. Mr. Oyegu happens to be that type of man. He had never hidden his preference to Mrs. Oyegu from the word go. But Mrs. Oyegu's preference for the opposite in recent times has dampened the fire in Mr. Oyegu. He had over time tried to talk Mrs. Oyegu out of her "I don't care anymore" attitude to no avail. He had therefore told himself that he is not left with any other alternative. Like he put it, if man no die, man no go rotten. Back in the day, there were a lot of characters that attracted young Mrs. Oyegu to her man. Like she was very neat in dressing. She looked her best whenever she was going out. She dresses very well, though not very expensively, but reasonably. While Ms Oyegu did not request that she continues to maintain everything, he also believes that there are certain fundamentals that should not be thrown away, especially the one that borders on neatness, and then how one carries themselves, etc. Soon, Mr. Oyegu began to notice those traits in other women living around. Of particular interest was an 18-year-old Yemisi. Yemisi was a small-time businesswoman living with her mother down the street. Yemisi had to walk through the front of Mr. Oyegun's compound each morning going to her place of work. Mr. Oyegu observed the way she carries herself. It all reminds him of those things that attracted him to Mrs. Oyegu back in the day. One thing led to another, and they began to secretly see one another. Oyegu began to send her money and buy her goods. No matter how much you hide affairs like this, people must notice. And truly, people noticed. The gossip mills eventually went to work. Since then, the house had never been the same again. It was Mrs. Oyegu who first observed some shifts in the husband's attitude. When he's sitting and watching the television, as soon as a call comes in, any call at all for that matter, he gets jumpy and quickly picks the phone. She observed that certain calls were now being answered somewhere in the distance, away from listening ears. It was a strange behavior for a man who was very boisterous in answering phone calls. Mr. Oyegu, now wanting to leave the house alone and earlier than they used to do, he now buys telephone recharge cards much more than he used to do. Mr. Oyegu got that information from Mama Bilikisu, who operates a POS service down the road. Then the gossips began to filter into her ears about a certain girl called Yemisi and a man on the street. At first, she did not know it was her husband, so she waved it away. It wasn't her business, or so she told herself. In situations like this, nobody wants to confront you head-on. They would rather continue to pass the news behind the scene. One Saturday morning, Mrs. Oyegu was doing some unusual cleanup. She was rearranging things in the house when a single piece of paper fell off. It was a receipt issued for the transfer of some money to a Yemisi Sambo. First of all, she did not bother and continued to do her cleaning. Then she saw another and many more. She picked them up and began to think. The name was unmistakable, but the surname did not ring a bell. Then she asked some discreet questions. Trust the gossips, it was her, the Yemisi down the street. The very quiet young girl that walks like she cannot hurt a fly. That was when she began to put two and two together. The story that had been making the rounds. The story about Yemisi and a certain man down the road. She stood there for what appears to be an eternity, staring into space. Then she muttered to no one in particular. This must stop. It has got to stop. But deep inside her, she had her fears. I hope she's not yet pregnant for him. The frequency of the transfers were just too much. Then she thought to herself, should I confront him? Or deal with her squarely first in ways she will never forget? She chose the former. Confront Mr. Oyegu first. She then began to threaten how she was going to turn the house into a living hell for him. how she was going to confront him and tear him into shreds. Why on earth would he cheat on her? After this many years of living together, with this number of kids, all doing well in the universities. Meanwhile, Mr. Oyegu had gone out for his early morning workout, something he does early to keep fit, but had often used that opportunity to get close to Yemisi, who was also into such workouts. As soon as he came in, he was quick to observe the way she responded to his greetings. It was rather too cold and snappy. Many years of living with her tells him many things about her. Then another look at the piece of papers and documents on the table told him that his cover had been blown. He first did not want to act on his suspicion alone. He asked himself a number of questions. What if he was mistaken in his thoughts? What if she had not seen all that he was thinking? So he quickly went to the table and hurriedly began to put the documents back into the folder. Then he began to ask questions like, why was he even keeping the receipts? How was he to convince anyone that he meant no harm? He had lived with Mrs Oyegu for many years. Him no say her anger no get part 2. Her anger could be devastating, though she does not get angry too often. But once she does, she could bring down the roof of that building. It was while he was rearranging the table that her words rang out. When are you bringing her into the house? She asked sarcastically. Or will you continue to keep her outside forever? Oko Yemisi, meaning Yemisi's husband in the local dialect. Throughout that day, the house did not know peace. Eventually, she did not get any response from Mr. Oyegu. He knew better than to argue with a woman who just discovered that her husband had been cheating all this while. The children were on holiday, so they were around, and we are listening to all the dialogue that was going on. She called them together, told them the whole story. After telling them, she ordered that they come with her to go wreak havoc in Yemisi's house. In her rage, she forgot that she was talking to some grown-up children. When she discovered that they were not ready to be drawn into the war, she decided to go and do the battle alone. Mr. Oko was another Nigerian man, about 60, lives in the next compound. He was a highly respected man of God in the area. He had handled many marital conflicts of this nature in and beyond the area before. Somehow, Mr. Oko got to hear of the impending war. He was at that point preparing to go to church, Bible and all on hand, when he heard of the full mobilization for battle and decided to step in. Mrs. Oyegu had already tied her scarf around her waist in the usual manner of those preparing for war and was about stepping out. That was when Mr. Oko came in. Virtually everyone in the vicinity respects Mr. Oko, and Mrs. Oyegu was no exception. So when Mr. Oko came in, he quickly doused the tension. His presence was like pouring water onto a very red hot collection of charcoal. Mrs. Oyegu briefed him about what she saw and what she intends to do. She told the man of God that it was going to be an all-out war today. Mr. Oko, in his usual manner, sat her down and began to preach to her conscience. She first of all told Mr. Oko that she was not ready for any form of peace talk. But common sense later prevailed, and she sat down to listen. That was how peace was wrenched out of the arms of the devil that day. Like people used to say, we know how catastrophe like this starts, but no one knows how it will end. They also said that some lives are brought to a tragic end, not necessarily because their silence meant to end the life of the victim deliberately, but did it in an attempt to avoid shame. Who knows what could have happened if Mrs. Oyegu had got to Yemisi's house with all that anger? Like the locals will say, God will not allow us to see bad things. No. Mr. Oko spent most part of that precious Saturday with Mrs. Oyegu, telling her what she was doing right and what she did wrong, telling her how to snatch her husband back without hurting a fly, how to put the devil to shame without lifting a finger, how to bring back peace to her home, and so on. Within the next few weeks, a lot began to happen in the Oyegun's household. We gradually began to observe changes in the way of Mrs. Oyegun's dressing. She now goes to salon to not only make her once disheveled hairs, but also to do manicure and pedicure. She now puts on very neat wears and has since done away with her very faded wrappers. She no longer puts on bedroom slippers when going out to some distance. In fact, the transformation no get part 2. Some people have said that at times you need to talk to some people before they will realize that what they were doing was not good. At times one needs to face danger to know the importance of peace. Maybe if she had not faced an imminent threat to her marriage, Mrs. Oyegu would have continued to wallow in her ignorance. Or if she had not got a Mr. Oko that told her the home truth, maybe her marriage would have hit the rocks by now. Like they used to say, the voice of man is the voice of God. Thanks to the counsel of Mr. Oko and people like him. People like that have brought stability to many homes. Eventually, peace returned to the Oyegun's home, not because of war or the preparation of war, but because someone took it upon himself to preach peace and understanding. Mr. and Mrs. Oyegu eventually began living in peace once more. The inferno that was to consume the whole house disappeared without lifting a finger. What lesson did we learn from here? Number 1, sometimes you do not need to fight an outsider to get your much desired peace at home. Secondly, what you need is merely understanding to enable you meander through the murky terrain of this journey called marriage. I hope you have learned a few things from here. We shall be glad to have your experience on the comment section of this video. Please help us like this video, share and subscribe. Actions like that will help strengthen us to bring you more interesting videos. Thank you for listening.